In the case of gang rape, like everyone who is like involved in the activity or is supporting it in any way is responsible for the act.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the punishment for it is 20 years. So will
Mm-hmm.
the woman who is involved in a gang rape activity who is supporting it will also be punished for 20 years with the same amount of
Yes,
punishment that the man will get?
yes. There is no exceptions possible now because previously they had this provision saying less than the mandatory minimum can be given for special reasons. Today we do not have any exceptions.
Ma'am,
Yeah,
ma'am, in the cases of marital rape, can wife be held liable?
but there is no marital rape even by the husband. Why would the wife be liable?
So,
Even the
like,
yeah.
no one is held liable in cases of marital rape.
Yeah, but because of the biological conditions, it is assumed that women cannot rape the man.
Okay.
Ma'am,
But no, and also because when you say rape, in case of rape under 375, women are not liable. It's only the men who are liable. Women become liable only as the supporters under gang rape. They are only
Okay,
seen
ma'am.
as victims.
Okay.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Ma'am, how exactly we differentiate sexual intercourse and sexual act? I mean, the section 375,
No,
there from A to
traditionally, sexual intercourse was seen as spinovaginal penetration. So today we have included a lot more categories of fingers, of objects. So these are sexual acts, not sexual intercourse. But in Sakshi, this is what the petitioners were asking. They were saying that the word sexual intercourse should be interpreted to include all this whole range. And there should be all part of rape. Because of, remember Chaku case we discussed earlier, where the father was fingering the daughter, 6 years old. And the petitioners wanted, the mother wanted that it should be conviction for rape. That did not happen. They said, no, 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 we cannot allow all these other categories. It is only sexual assault. And they convicted him under sexual assault. So she went to the High Court. High Court did not agree. Then Sakshi, the NGO, went to the Supreme Court asking for the same thing, that this is not really horrific, that such a horrendous act is done by a father on a daughter. And it is not coming with the definition of the impact on the child is going to be worse, but it is treated as a minor offense of sexual assault compared to the very serious offense of rape. The Supreme Court in Sakshi said, no, we cannot expand the definition of sexual intercourse by judicial interpretation, because this is how the whole society understands it, this is how the police understands it, this is how everybody else understands it. It's a penovaginal penetration. And therefore, by judicial interpretation, we will not do that. So now in 2013, and under the ordinance and the Verma committee, that request was accepted, that no, this penetration of any of the orifice, whether by penis, whether by fingers, whether by object, is as humiliating and as horrendous as penetration of the vagina by penises. So therefore, the two terminologies are now being used. That it is not only the sexual intercourse, but also the sexual acts which are causing penetration of the different orifice, urethra, vagina, mouth, anus. So therefore, any of that, all of them are not, because when you look at 377, it uses the word carnal intercourse. So anal intercourse was referred to as a carnal intercourse. But the cases which had come up over a period of time have indicated that it was not only limited to anal also. Even there was a brushing of the penis in thighs, between breasts, all that was also considered as carnal in some cases. So there was a lot of confusion as to what is the activity which comes in carnal intercourse. But in any of these activities, both in sexual intercourse, carnal intercourse, penis was the organ of attack. So that was very limited category. But if you were to look at from the perspective of the victim's humiliation and losing the control over self, it does not matter what penetrated her. And therefore, the expanded definition. And that is why these two terms are there, sexual intercourse as well as sexual acts.
Ma'am,
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, Sandhya.
Am I
ma'am,
audible?
I was to ask that in IPC, when a man have consensual sex with his wife also, wife age is ever 15, it is not rape. But in POXO, if the
It is now an offense. 15 to 18, it is an offense. Independent thought judgment.
okay, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yes,
But
ma'am.
ma'am, one
Ma'am.
controversy remained there, ma'am. I just want to add on. Just one
Yeah.
controversy has remained there because so far marital rape now under 18, if under 18, if he's doing with his wife, he can be held liable for rape. But the same act can also be covered under 377 also.
No, when you
If you
talk
look at the
about,
definition.
no, look, this is where the whole, we did talk about this in the last class.
Okay.
Married woman above 18, the husband now forces himself on anal sex. Earlier, she could have gone and complained of 377. Now she can't. That's the tragedy of the amendment.
Okay.
Because now that act, anal intercourse, is also included within the definition of rape.
377. Yeah.
So anything the husband can do to the wife, nothing is punishable if she is above 18. That's really, really sad state of affairs.
Actually.
Yes, she has lost complete control over the body. So the IPC is making a distinction between a woman and a wife. As a wife, she is the absolute slave of the husband in sexual matters.
Ma'am, I'm still not able to understand the rationale behind why sexual assault is less of an offense, while mere penetration in case of rape is a bigger offense. Because in last class you said कि उसकी वजह से the woman gets pregnant and she's carrying somebody else's child. Ma'am, अब तो definition में we have तो उसमें fingers भी included है. It includes any object also.
But penetration है ना बच्चे, penetration है. The way we said that when you look at all the range of offences, all of them have gradation, sometimes determined by the legislature, sometimes by the judges. So when you looked at culpable homicide and murder, there was gradation, even though in both cases the person has actually died. But we give lesser punishment to a person who commits culpable homicide. In this case, the nature of injury is not the same. So there are three. One is sexual assault. The second one is attempt to rape. The third one is rape. So there is a gradation in the three. And all the three cannot be treated at par.
Do you mean that sexual assault में humiliation is less in case than in case of rape?
No, personally speaking, I would not say that. For me, even touching the harassment we face on the buses is equally abominable. But that's not my personal view. No? That's the personal view. What does the legislature mean? If I was to make a law, I will not go for punishment as a starting point. So it's not a question of my personal view. It's a question of how the scheme of the legislation is. The scheme of the legislation, not only for this offense, for all offenses. We said the same thing in theft also. There are gradations. There are gradations in abduction. There are gradations in kidnapping. The nature of the offense is the same, but the impact either on the person or on society is perceived to be by the legislature as being more grave.
So, ma'am, what exactly is the differentiation between a rape and a sexual assault? In both, you said that the insertion of fingers or objects, these also come under the.
It was seen because before the amendment, these acts did not come within the definition of rape. Today they have. But at the time when we had Sakshi and we had Jaku, penetrating the vagina by fingers or objects did not come either in unnatural offenses or in the definition of rape. Therefore, the only other section left was sexual assault. Because in both the sections, both in 377 and 375, we had the organ of attack was the penis. So if penis was not involved, they could not be, the judges were not ready to grant that it is sexual intercourse because the term used was sexual intercourse.
So, ma'am, after the amendment, what is the difference between the two?
In which ones?
Ma'am, sexual assault and rape, like the provision of insertion
So let's
is
read
also
page 50, so let's read 354 for us to understand.
Yes.
What does 354 talk about? I was asking the question of what is assault?
354 is the punishment and 353 it defines.
No, 351 is different. And 354 is different. 351 only talks about assault, which is what actions included. And we did talk about it.
Whoever makes any gesture or any preparation intending or knowing it to be likely that such gesture
just has a haath rakha main marta hu, that itself is assault. You don't have to actually hit. The moment you hit, it is the offense of hurt. So in assault, you do not have to have any physical touch at all. In case of rape, can you have rape without a physical touch? Any categories of physical, any category of rape?
No.
So then when you look at 354, so the punishment for 351 is in 352. So 354 is an additional, different offense. Who is going to read the definition? 354.
I'll read.
Yes.
Assault or criminal force to women with intent to outrage her modesty. Whoever assaults or uses criminal force to any woman intending to outrage or knowing it to be likely that he will thereby outrage her modesty shall be punished with imprisonment of either description for a term which shall not be less than 1 year, but which may extend to 5 years and shall also be liable to fine.
And so this minimum mandatory has come only in 2013. Before that, the maximum punishment, which was the grudge in Chaku's case, was maximum 2 years. So after all the cases brought about, then now we have provided for mandatory minimum of 1 year and up to 5 years. So now look at this. Who is the offender? Who is a possible offender in this case?
Ma'am, any person, whoever.
Both man and woman.
Man, woman, third also included. So offender can be anyone. It has to be just a human being. And then assaults or uses criminal force to any. So victim is woman. Now we have this additional lump. Who is a woman is the question today. Whether a woman who has got more, what do you call them as estrogen? No. What are the male hormones?
Male is testosterone
and testosterone.
Testosterone. So if a woman has more testosterone, so whether she is a woman, so that's one kind of, because our sportswomen have now given us this controversy that should they be allowed to participate in the women's leagues, or because they have got more of these male hormones than the ordinary woman would have. So the category of who is a woman itself has become, so one is a woman who has got all the female organs, who has got the same kind of hormones as women have, standardized medical terminology. But then we have now, after NALSA, the transgender person who are claiming to be women. And this transgender person, when we say transsexual is a person who has actually undergone operation, surgery to the body and has become a woman. So we do not have much problem with that to count her as a woman for the medical purposes. But if it is a person who is still not gone through that process, but thinks herself to be a woman, declares herself to be a woman, wants to be treated with the feminine pronouns, if she is subjected to assault, will she be able to file a complaint? So she has male organs, male body, but has declared pursuant to NALSA to be a woman. Will she be a victim in this case or not?
No.
Why not?
Ma'am, because mere thinking or declaring oneself as woman, I don't think law counts it that she's a woman. Like
But
you
what
said,
did NALSA judgment say?
But
I
she
think
has
she can.
operated.
I
NALSA
think
judgment
she can.
said, NALSA judgment recognized that there are human beings beyond the binary of man and woman. And it held that that any person who believes, who think that they are in a wrong body, they don't think that they are men, so they have the ability to choose to be either identified as men or women. And we have case from Madras High Court where a man married a transgender woman. They wanted to get their marriage registered. The judge said, no, you are both men, I will not. This is not a woman. So the High Court, Madras High Court said that NALSA has given her the choice. And she says, I am a woman. She has been living like a woman. She has to be treated like a woman. Hindu law says a man and a woman can marry. They are both Hindus. They can validly marry. And their marriage must be registered. So we are in an era where we need to move out from the boundary of biologically born men and women. We'll have to now think of the social realities of today and the legal provisions as well. So if the legal provision, the court says, the NALSA judgment, the Supreme Court direction, that human beings can choose. So if she has declared to be a woman, and we would have students among ourselves who say that no, they are looking like men, but they say I'm a woman and we know about this. And if you sexually, if you assault her to outrage her modesty, 354 attracted, in my understanding.
Ma'am?
Yes, Ayush.
Ma'am, wasn't the NALSA judgment in a way overturned by the 2019 trans bill that came, which gave the power of identifying a person as trans to the DM of a district? And
that's only when they want to have a passport. The people who have gone through sex change operations. And that act, in any case, till today has not been enforced. It has been passed, but not enforced yet.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question, ma'am.
Yes, Sachin.
Thank you. Is there some sort of a rule, or not a rule, but some sort of a measurement as to how much time should have passed, or does a person have to go through some psychological testing and counseling and everything before a person can be deemed psychologically fit to be clinically transformed into a woman? Or if a person can, because and the reason I ask is because this opens up so much a room for abuse. I mean, I as a man could easily pretend to be a woman, and scream bloody murder if I get assaulted somewhere, and could really get someone in trouble when I feel like it.
No, but tell me, Sachin. Tell me, Sachin. No. Even if you're a man and you're faking to be a woman, why should you be assaulted in the first place?
Well,
and why should you not have a remedy? No, sir, look at this. For us, we are kind of saying, for me as a starting point, why do we assume that only women have modesty, men have got no modesty?
The reason I'm saying so is because, and just so that you know, I am absolutely for the rights of the transgenders, because I personally have had worked with in nonprofits and I've seen the mental and anguish they go through, especially as children, and so I do understand that. What I'm saying is that not having a proper system in place which absolutely addresses this concern as to how will the transgenders be cases be handled prior to opening up their rights and everything, it opens up a lot of gray areas for abuse. For example, in the US, there were a few transgenders, and they were far more physically what you call superior in strength to an average female, and they decided to compete in professional sports, and guess what, they won. And even the women who were for the rights of the transgenders, now all of a sudden it created a huge rift and conflict, because no one had actually thought the far-reaching effect of how creating this new space in the community, what kind of negative consequences would that end up having other ways. And that's what I'm saying. There are some intended, but there are some unintended abuses which creates a rift in the society. So the very people we're trying to help and actually it ends up causing even more problems. That's all I was trying to address.
No, you are raising this question of they being more, they being stronger than the other women is one scenario. So this is somebody who was a male and now has transferred to the other side. But what about this, what was her name, Deepa, the sportswomen we have in India? We got 3-4 of them. So they are physically women, but they have got more male testosterone. So they should be now ousted from this one because all other women are getting defeated by them. Are we applying this different standard for born women and then having testosterone levels higher?
I am not saying that there should be different standards for them.
No,
all
precisely. No, because for me, we are in a transition stage. So in the transition stage, do we make interpretations which is going to favor? There would be some, because abuse cannot be the bogey for preventing. Abuse has to be tackled as an abuse. So if somebody is doing it, faking it, you make mechanisms for finding out the fake. And in all our criminal justice system, we do believe testimony of the parties. If the judge don't believe that this is what they're claiming, they have got the training to do that. And we assume this to be the training to be sufficient in all other matters. Do we say that, no, there are, in other cases when somebody is faking something, he says, no, I've been mugged, but the man has not been mugged. He's faking mugging because there are a lot of people who say they fake their deaths in order to get insurance. So lots of faking does happen in all the areas. But does that mean that we stop giving benefits to people who were actually suffered?
And no one has, including myself, is saying that the benefit should not be given. What I am saying is that far-reaching consequences must be taken into place and proper mechanisms should be considered. While
I'm just saying, Sachin, that in all cases, the moment we talk about this other, whether this is a transgender, whether women, whether this is minority, the moment we start talking of some benefits to the other, immediately we talk about fake, misuse, abuse. But which is the law which is used, misused and abused by the majority? Is that an issue at all? We don't use this. We don't say, oh, because men are making false complaints. No, ordinary men and women are making false complaints of theft. If they don't want to, they want to throw out a servant, they will falsely accuse that person of theft. Lots of time it happens. Lot of times it happens that women have branded their small young children because the child servant stole a biscuit from their kitchen. Does that lead to a demand for saying, oh, don't give them anything? They are women, therefore they are doing so. So somewhere this whole concern about misuse arises for us as a primary concern when it is a group which was deprived is now being given. The groups which already had all those powers, we do not say, oh, they are also abusing. Abuse is an issue in law. Abuse is an issue in law is a fact. Whether it is abused by police, whether it is abused by police, whether it is abused by politicians, whether it is abused by powerful, whether it is abused by minority, we keep on referring to it, but constantly we hear the bogey of abuse and misuse and false complaints when it is a powerless group which is now being given some powers.
And no one is saying that they should not be given any powers. I'm just saying that when the authorities are giving them and recognizing them and taking the effort to pass bills and laws and everything, they should just not stop there. They should also consider what possible other
Sachin,
consequences
have you
could
even
that be.
looked at the Transgender Act? What is the punishment for assault of a transgender person?
I'm assuming there has to be some kind of punishment. I think it's just the same as anybody else.
6
I
months.
think it's not even 1 year, 6 months.
It's 6 months. So that is what we are doing to them. And that is where the resistance comes in, that when you make a law specially for them, even then we are not treating them equally. Their sexual assault is not as important as the assault on women.
And that's all the more reason
That's what
I'm
we are
saying
dealing
that
with.
it should address that. It should address it so
Yeah,
that
but
no
how do
one is
we?
allowed to abuse
No,
the
no,
system.
no. I am talking to prospective lawyers. I am trying you to think that if you get a transgender woman who has been abused, will you argue 354 or will you not argue 354? Whether the judge will grant or not is a different question altogether. But as a new century, 21st century lawyers, will you be aware of the issues which are arising without the change in the law? Because you wait now till the time a law comes in for their rights, then I will not protect them, is the question I'm asking you as a prospective lawyers. Would you be aware of their plights? Would you be aware of the dilemmas they face? Would you be aware of the exclusions they have in the society? That's my question. I'm not into what the law says. I'm saying what is a possibility in the law which we can use as a lawyer. If he is your client, would you say, oh, you were not born a woman, therefore you are out of 354? Or would you want to convince the judge to say, no, she should be included because she has a right under NALSA, the way the lawyer in Arun Kumar's case did? He argued and therefore the judge granted. If the lawyers don't argue, we want the judges to be aware, become aware and start talking about it all. Are the lawyers making a plea on that ground? How did these changes came in the law? Because lawyers argued in Swadesh Jhaku and they argued in Sakshi. They continuously kept on lobbying. Therefore, the law changed. The legislature is not they are not thinking in terms of welfare. They are thinking in terms of their political vote. So unless you make an argument, how do you expect the judges on their own to? Sometimes the judge may be more forward-looking than a lawyer. But I am trying to make lawyers who are sensitive to the current controversies. So the question is not what the law should be. The question is what would you be able to argue as a lawyer before the court? I want us to read these sections to see what are the categories of persons. So if somebody, or suppose you are the prosecution lawyer, no, you are the defense lawyer, you will say, oh, she is not a woman. But will you be able to convince the judge, no, that she has to be treated as a woman because NALSA says so? Because for the last 10 years, she has been living like a woman. She has been dressing like a woman. So just because this man thinks she is not a woman, and the biological fact is she is not a woman, should that be a defense? That's what I wanted to ask.
Ma'am, I would like to add something.
Yes.
Actually, I think what he intended to say, and I also have the same question, is since the laws were, these new laws have been made for the trans people, how can we protect the abuse happening? I mean, taking undue advantage of these laws. For example, a man can, since there are no laws which can cover assault of a man, sexual harassment of a man, so it's possible that that person can abuse these laws by faking that he's a woman. Now he recognizes himself as a woman.
Again, Shelley, you
So
are on
in
the
that
question of
case,
evidence. You are on the question of evidence. The woman says the faking. The judge will catch the fake.
yeah. So my question was,
the matter is
what's
over.
the criteria? I just want to know
What is
to
the criteria
distinguish.
means what?
Yeah.
The judges are trained to determine whether somebody is telling a lie or a truth. How do you know that when you say that theft has taken place? How would the judge know that actually theft took place? You said your theft has taken place. How do they know that you are fake or you are truth?
Yes, ma'am, I got that. Just wanted to know whether there are some specific rules that have been laid down.
Why should there be specific rules for examining a witness, a transgender witness, than a woman or a man?
Ma'am, I'm just asking for the sake of knowledge.
No, I'm giving you that knowledge that did we ask this question in all evidences? How do you know any witness is telling the truth or false? How do you know that? When it is man and woman, we don't ask that question. When it is transgender, we say, oh, is he faking? Did we ask that question about the man who's faking, the woman who's faking?
It's not
Because if
about
all the
faking.
witnesses, no, whether all the witnesses in the courtroom go and tell the truth, all the victims tell the truth all the time, in all offenses. Is that our understanding of the criminal justice? If we do not ask that question for any other group of people, we are raising it for transgender. This is about non-inclusiveness. They are human beings. They've got the same sensibilities as we have. But we think, no, they are the ones who are nasty, who are who are frauds, who are not normal. This is our understanding of them. Therefore, we ask these questions in relation to one particular group. The same question is not asked by what we think are normal people.
Ma'am, is there a remedy for men also for outraging their modesty?
No.
Ma'am, I just wanted to say.
Yes, Shelly.
You were referring that we have evidence, we have to prove, we have to give evidences and all. We have evidence act. So in only that direction, like, do we have any evidence act or anything in the evidence act only for these specific people? And I know if there will be, it will actually be outraging their modesty. I know.
My question is, why do you need a separate law for transgender on evidence? We had earlier Muslim law for giving evidence. One man could give evidence, but unless two women gave evidence, they will not be believed. You want the same thing on 4 transgenders should report then? Do we want that? No, there should be separate rules for women giving evidence, men giving evidence, transgender giving evidence, Hindus giving evidence, Muslim giving evidence. Do we want separate rules for each one of the human being by reference to their identity? Their identity is only one human being. And all human beings have got all the same sensibilities, same traits, same love, same affection, same hatred, same anger. So why do we want a separate evidence law for the transgender when we didn't? And we have been objecting to this different. We had this also in case of rape victims. Rape victims' past moral character was admissible at one point of time, while the male offenders' past sexual history wasn't. We objected to that. Today we're saying, no, create separate ones for transgender. By what logic? Except in saying, oh, they are different, they are not different, they are kind of lesser. They are not trustworthy. The same thing we have been telling it about the women. We are saying the same thing for transgender. Both of us women struggle to get equality. Now we are wanting them to also go the same path. We have not learned our lesson even in case of the struggles of women.
Yes, ma'am, got it. Thank you.
Ma'am, can I ask one question?
No, we need to look at sections. Yes, please.
Ma'am, who gets usually benefited from the provision of minimum mandatory? Is it the accused who gets benefited or the victim gets benefited?
Nobody gets benefited actually. It is just the legislator who thinks that it will be, the people will be deterred if there is mandatory minimum sentence.
मैम कई बार तो मैम
अरे mandatory minimum sentence में accused चला गया, victim को क्या फायदा उससे? उसके बाद भी तो बाहर ही आएगा वो. Victim को कोई फायदा नहीं होता है. हम लोग सोचते हैं कि दिमागी तौर पे they will have some satisfaction that, oh, this man has gone for minimum 1 year or this man can go for minimum 1 year. But is that any solace? Do I have a guarantee that after he comes back, after even 5 years, he will no more be a molester? Now we have got a sexual registry, sexual offenders registry. So now we are keeping a record of all men who have been convicted of a sexual offense. They should not be allowed. Now we are following America. They should not be allowed to be in the vicinity 500 yards or something of schools, of religious places. All kinds of restrictions are being, once an offender, always an offender is the policy we are following in sexual offenses now. And we are believing that by going this line, we will be able to deter men from committing these offenses. You know, some benefit, we do not know who benefits. And unless we do something about it, Anubhav, your video is on and I'm seeing a lot of modeling here. You're talking to somebody, what's happening? Thank you.
Sorry, ma'am.
Yeah.
I have ma'am,
Yes, Ramnik.
How do we define this term modesty? And do everyone have same modesty?
I certainly believe all human beings have modesty, but that's not what the law believes. Law believes that if a man's modesty is violated, he can handle it himself. But if a woman's modesty is violated, she needs the state support. So those of us who believes in human beings and not only in being men, women, or transgender, we would say that similar provision should be there. It may still be that women will, because of the historical background, and transgender because of their social status, they will be subjected to more violence in these categories. And they will need the state support. When you look at laws which are gendered, for whatever, whether transgender, whether it is women, or I do not know whether there's any men only for men, any provisions only for men. The whole rationale of the law has been that in our society, men dominate, not only in the social structure, social setup, but also in the legal norms. And we have seen that in other cases as well. So far, when we saw, even look at the manner in which murder is committed, or the manner in which the defenses have been created, they have all taken note of how men find themselves in their lives, what has been their experience of life, of attack, of violence, etc. The kind of attack women suffer has not been the standard for making law. So the legal understanding is that we are the father, no? The state is the father of women. So the manner in which in the families fathers protect their daughters, the state will protect women. And how do they protect is by creating special laws for their protection, by punishing the men. That is the whole philosophy of women protective, women-centric laws. The assumption, not only the assumption, the facts are also that women do not have the same power, same status. The indicators of power are how much control do you have on your own body? How much control do you have over money? How much control do you have over property? How much control do you have on reproductive rights? How much control you have over your health? A lot of indicators of status. So when you compare the accessibility of control, or the quantum of control by men over these resources, the women have got very less even today. Look at education data, you look at economic data, you look at violence data, everything is a lot more for women. And therefore, the law has taken cognizance of the phenomena where women are victimized a lot more in a given scenario than men are. It is not saying that no man is ever violated, no man is ever abused, no man is ever subjected to domestic violence. Law is not saying that. Law is saying that in those cases, the normal provisions of law can be used by men. So suppose a wife beats up the husband and causes arm broken to him. He can file his grievous hurt complaint against the wife, and the offense will be registered. What was found was that the woman, when she was beaten and her arm was broken by the husband, the policeman will not register that complaint. ये घर का मामला है, husband ने मार दिया, by chance तुम्हारी हाथ टूट गया, कोई बात नहीं है. So realizing that when the men filed complaints, they were registered. When wives filed complaints, it was seen as a family matter. So therefore, recognizing that reality of the law, that women were subjected to a lot of sexual violence compared to the two sexes, we are not saying 5 men, no, 50% of men also get violated, 50% of women also get violated. We have got figure that there might be 1 in 1,000 or 1,00,000 men getting violated, and 1 in 3 married women subjected to domestic violence. Now, for whom do you make the law? Making a gender-neutral law in those circumstances is not going to do justice, because this one man in 1,00,000 is getting subjected to domestic violence, and 1 in 3 women, married women, are subjected to domestic violence. The law is made for these 1 in 3 women, not for that 1 in lakh men. So men start saying, oh, I'm also abused. I'm also subjected to that. But what is the percentage of those men and who are violated, who are subjected to sexual intercourse? Today, with the recognition, because now the sexual assault has become a lot more a concern of the third gender also, which is now coming out. Or even if they're not coming out, they are still not claiming, but they are effeminate. Effeminate men are subjected to a lot of gender of sexual violence, even though they are not claiming to be women. So if you are behaving like women, you're walking like women, you are prone to be subjected to violence. So similar has gone that among women also, if it is a Dalit woman, more likely. If it's a disabled woman, more likely. So the percentage, the quantum of the offense, of the wrongful activity increases by reference to who you are. The law considers exceptional cases as not worthy of making special laws. They can be covered by the ordinary laws. But when this is a phenomena linked to their sex, gender, identity, etc., then it becomes an issue and law has to be made. So that's where all these provisions. So for me, I certainly think that certainly there is a need to relook at these laws to see whether these should be gender neutral. But so far, they are not gender neutral, because so far we have still not found the extent of violence against men, sexual violence against men, not so much. But certainly we do know that before the Verma Committee, the transgender community did make a representation, and that is why it was recognized in their recommendation that men are the offenders, whether the victims are men or women. Then we went to one step further and says, okay, either women or men can be offenders or victims. Then we are back to square one rather than sticking to the Verma Committee, which would have provided solace to all the transgender persons. But we didn't, we were still women groups prevailed over the government. And we know that legislation is a politicking exercise also. Whichever is the more powerful group will get their positions recognized in the law. We still have, there are certain men group which are saying that, what do you call them? I forget now, the husbands association which are there, which are saying that all the men who are getting abused by their wives and the wives are making fake complaints, let's all come together. But the number is still so minuscule that the government has not found it fit yet to make a law for them as well. But I certainly think domestic violence is one category, but sexual violence, we know that it is now happening a lot more than it was happening earlier, even against men. And there's a recognition. Previously, it was not even recognized. It was only from a few years ago when Satyamev Jayate came out with the specific information. And then studies have been there that children, boys are as much, 53% was referred, compared to, of course, 85 to 90% in case of women. So 53% is a very substantial number of boys being abused. But that was not seen as an issue because the social implications of that abuse were not there. These personal implications are very much there. Men suffer psychologically. The trauma is no less. But in addition, they do not suffer the social outing, which women suffer. If a child is even raped, she is now not fit for marriage because she is no more a virgin. So we have all these negatives attached to the violence against women, but not to the men. The social implications of that. And that is where we still are onto the gendered legislation there. Yeah, so the question was, what is outraging her modesty? Anyone, I don't know, Harleen, do you have an answer to this question?
Ma'am, I really find it very patriarchal, using it only for a women. So this is what I was just hearing. I mean, modesty is not defined anywhere. So, I mean, it can vary according to the social, cultural background of a particular society also. And in the wake of, and, we are at the, a stage where we have started recognizing alternative sexualities also. So outraging modesty, using it only in context of women, I mean, that doesn't
for
seem
me,
to be
my sense of modesty will be that whatever we consider as private, because now we have all these other offenses also, of voyeurism, for example.
Stalking.
For me, voyeurism, stalking is not modesty, I think, in that sense, but voyeurism is certainly violating the modesty. So voyeurism would have come within this word earlier, but because there was no clarity on this terminology, so therefore we have lots of these other sections. So I remember that when I used to go to my village, we did not have a bathroom. So we were all supposed to take bath in the open with a cart in the kind of blocking the view. But this was very, very, for us, this was see-through cart with the barns and all. So we used to feel very conscious of taking a bath in the open. In Delhi, we were not used to that. But then gradually, as we grew up, we noticed that the modest behavior, that point of men, was they will not look that side if there is a car standing there. It was the expected behavior of men, not voyeurism that you are trying to see through those holes. And I was also reminded of the same kind of an approach. We have this expression called peeping Tom. And this has come from a princess called Lady Godiva in Coventry. We have a statue riding a horse completely without any clothes. She was protesting. I don't know which century it is. So she was protesting, demanding higher, whatever the allowances were available to the princes and princesses. So she chose the way to protest by going naked on the horseback through the city. Anybody looking at her would be violating her modesty. But she is the one who's protesting. But the norm followed by everybody, excepting this one person called Tom, who peeped through a window to see the naked Lady Godiva. And that is from where the expression comes in. So I think the modesty is not violating the privacy of the person. Whether she is bathing in the open or whether you are disrobing her. So for me, disrobing, voyeurism are all categories of violating of modesty. But these are some descriptions which are seen as even more. So for me, anybody, and therefore now we have, previously we didn't have these other offenses. So sexual harassment, for example. Now we have, and this would have also come, in my understanding, everything would have come in the category called violating, against the, outraging the modesty. When somebody touches a woman against her wish in a sexual manner, outraging her modesty. You do not want physical touches, unwanted physical touches, which are of sexual nature. So there will be some touches which will happen on the bus when you're traveling, but there is a difference in the sexual touch and just a touch. So if any person, whether, and then we have this other category in 509, which is not even 509, which was earlier referred to as eve teasing. Word, gesture, act intended to insult the modesty of a woman. So here we are talking about whistling at a woman, unwarranted, unasked for, calling names, insult the modesty of any woman, utters any word, makes any sound or gesture, or exhibits any object. So whole flashing the penis. All this is coming here. Here we are not at all anywhere, need not be close to that person in vicinity as to see that actual force may be used against us. So that will fall into 509. In 354, those acts which are creating an apprehension, because look, in assault, what is required is makes any gesture or any preparation intending or knowing it to be likely that such gesture will cause a person to apprehend that who makes the gesture is about to use criminal force. They're about to use to touch my body or affect my sense of the body. If any of that is likely to happen, then it is 354. If there is no possibility, I'm not apprehending touch to my body, 509. And these are all saying privacy of a woman. So for me, now the new examples with new offenses which have been introduced are explaining or creating separate offenses of more severe nature, which are falling within 354. because we have not found women doing all that. Therefore, it is continuing to be a gendered offense. But we do know that it is not ordinary men, but certainly transgender men who are subjected to same kind of violation of modesty. That's where I'm saying that there is need to relook at that. So we have this case. What is the name of the case?
Rupam KPS Gill case is there.
Yeah. So what is, anyone who has read the case, what is it about? Rupal Bajaj versus who is the offender?
KPS Gill is the offender.
Now, who is KPS Gill?
He's the DGP of the state of that time. He was a DGP of the state.
DGP of the state. Who is Rupan Dev?
IS officer. Lady IS officer.
IPS.
IAS, I guess.
Yeah, I think she's IPS.
This one is IPS.
So both of them are in the same service. One is senior, the other one is IS. You sure?
Yeah, Rupan. Yeah, Rupan is the lady is the IS officer.
She's an IPS officer, and he is IAS officer.
She was the finance commissioner to the secretary to the government of Punjab.
So what happened in the party? There's a party. He gets drunk, a little bit drunk, and then what does he do?
The DGP, actually, the woman was sitting.
Let me call the lady to sit.
Piyush.
Yes, ma'am. The ladies were sitting.
Shakib, stop. Let Piyush speak. Yes, Piyush.
There were certain ladies in the guests, and they were sitting at the side when the DGP came over to them and asked the IS officer to sit next to him in a very indecent manner. And that's when the lady left. He slapped on the butt of the lady, a posterior part, and that's also called as a butt slapping case. And that's when the case arose over there.
So whether this action amounted to outraging her modesty.
And finally, the court observed if it is done against the will of the woman, that will be amounting to the ousting her modesty.
Yeah. So whether this act was done without the, because we were all talking about whether, how do you determine that whether she was willing or she was not willing to have a slap on her butt.
No particular evidence or witnesses could be found out, but the guests who were present there, they knew that the IS officer was living. She left the place out of intolerance of the DGP's act.
Piyush, that is post event. So before the event, how would KPS Gill know that this woman is not willing to my butt slapping?
Maybe
just the party.
Precisely. I mean, do you think all women who are come to a party, they are open to butt slapping? Take it for granted that women are, they are okay with butt slapping. So how could any reasonable man think that she would have given her consent and she would be a willing party to my butt slapping? You think it's a camaraderie. How it is a camaraderie, part of camaraderie? One, and also in this particular incident, he was trying to sit too close. She is moving. So certainly her sense of privacy, when you stand with friends, with some friends, you can put your hand on their shoulder. If you were to talk to me, you cannot come too close. You will be maintaining a little distance. So depending on what is your equation, these are officers. Whether they knew each other or not, they might be knowing each other. But does that mean that you can actually say, hand in hand, I'm the officer, so you cannot object? So what is this man thinking of himself? And was it a conviction throughout? In all the courts?
No, ma'am.
What happened? Which court, what happened?
Ma'am, trial court punished him for 3 months and 500 rupees fine for offense of 354.
So see, maximum was 2 years He was given 3 months.
Yeah,
Then
and ma'am, 2 months for 2 months and 200 rupees fine for offense of 509. Then ma'am, High Court, he upgraded the punishment, not punishment exactly, the fine to 2 lakh rupees.
And this man still goes to the Supreme Court.
Yes, ma'am. There were both the appeals from both the sides.
So what is your objecting? What is he saying?
KPS Gill. He's saying like he's innocent, he shouldn't be punished and fined and all.
So why is he claiming he's innocent? What is his understanding of his behavior?
He considered it as a very normal thing and all, but like he don't think it as that outraging the modesty of women.
So his understanding is that men do that. There's nothing wrong about it. Women's views, women's feeling, women's reaction do not count. Whether woman wanted it or not. Is she a friend of yours to do a butt slapping? Among men, how many men can you do butt slapping? Have you ever done butt slapping to a man? You've seen them as no. So therefore, there was certainly a very categorical sexual and gender action at his part. But he doesn't understand. He doesn't think that there's anything wrong about it.
Ma'am, additionally, he also says that this was motivated because he was a very high-rising police officer and people were jealous of his rise. And
that will always be put to any woman who complains if he's a powerful man. You've seen it, Gogoi, conspiracy theory. You always have this. Any case, not only in this matter, these becomes lot more easier to propagate, and newspapers will pick it up, these stories, much more quickly, because we want to continue to believe women tell lies. Women have got ulterior motives when they defame men, and poor innocent men get caught in that trap. That's the understanding behind all these arguments and cases. So our basic construction of women as liars, as ones who will trap men, who want the men to suffer because they have got, they were wanting something and the men refused. So these are all theories behind this, these stories which are saying, oh, there were ulterior purposes. And these are much more prevalent when a woman complains. When men complain against men, these do not become the primary theories. It's not that this is not mentioned, but they are not the primary stories. The gossip masala is not that men has some ulterior purpose. Because men are more likely to be believed. Women tell lies only. Na? So this is till the time we do not construct women as human beings. These are inferior human beings. Transgender are even more inferior than women. So till the time our construction of human being changes, the law can keep saying whatever it is. So suppose today, if suppose the KPS Gill incident would happen today, which offense will that person be charged with?
354A.
354A. Which part?
Outraging.
No, 354A.
Physical contact.
Physical contact and advances involving unwelcome and explicit sexual overtures. But now tell me, reading this section, let's read all the section and find out whether in this case, we know the offender is a man, but whether victim are only men or they can be women also. No, are only women or they can be men also in the language of the section. Suppose your boss is a gay man and he asks for sexual favor he demands sexual favor for you to be made permanent, and you are a man. Can you file a complaint under 354A?
Yes, ma'am.
You sure?
Yes, ma'am, because the victim is not defined in this section 354A. Okay.
So if the same boss shows you pornography against your will, male pornography against your will, your gay boss shows you male pornography against your will, can you file a complaint?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
It's ridiculous, no? That some sections are gender neutral because they're not referring to women. In others, they have left it open. Bad drafting. Another example of bad drafting. So
Ma'am, all of this has been drafted in 2013.
Sorry?
These amendments are from 2013. So these sections were introduced in 2013.
Yeah, these are 2013.
Oh.
And even
ma'am, another example.
Yes, Harleen.
Yeah, ma'am. Another example of bad drafting is that whatever is falling in the 354A1, that's also falling in 354 also. So if a man is committing any using criminal force against women, it can fall under 354 as well as 354(1)A. And now if we see 354, it's just providing punishment for up to 5 years. And if we see 354A, then the punishment is different. One offense is bailable, another is a non-bailable.
354(1)A?
Physical contact and advances.
I haven't seen that. Is that?
A man committing any of the following acts: physical contact and advances involving unwelcome and explicit sexual overtures.
354(1)A. Yeah.
So the same act will fall under 354 also. If we look at the definition of 354, whoever assaults or uses criminal force to any women, intending to outrage, and knowing to be likely that he's by doing that he's going to outrage the modesty. So, ma'am, don't you think the same act can fall under both the sections?
No, because in 354, it may not be physical contact actually, but the apprehension of it.
But uses criminal force?
Uses criminal, when you look at the definition of criminal force, it is also uses force to any person without.
Something like
Yeah, so that is again without, not necessarily by the physical force, not committing the offense, or knowing it likely that by such use force he will cause injury, fear, or annoyance. But force is a change of motion, etc. So this can be done without physical contact also. So I would think that if there's no physical contact, it will be 354. There's apprehension of physical contact. If an actual physical contact had happened, then 354A 11.
Ma'am, I find very overlapping. I mean, 354, 348, 509, they could have been clubbed together.
Precisely. So, no, for me, actually, all these will also fall into 354 because it is not limited only to non-use. Because when you look at Sudesh and Jhaku's case, Sudesh Jhaku case, very categorically, it was physical contact there, and they had convicted him under 354. So 354 is all inclusive of these other categories as such, overarching. But it also includes some more, which are not part of the other ones. And also, I think there will be always this litigation will be there, that if suppose there is a voyeurism. So in voyeurism, it says shall not be less than 3 years and extend to 7 years. The defense counsel will always want to say this should be brought in 354 rather than 354C. But if there is a specific, because 354 is a general offense, then if there is a specific offense committed, then I think specific section will apply to those categories. But I certainly felt that neither in the title, sexual harassment and punishment for sexual harassment, it is not gendered. The only gendered part comes into a man committing. So in this case, it is gendered to the extent of the offender being the man always. But in some sections, some clauses of subsection 1, the victim can also be any other person, can be a man, can be a transgender, because there is no reference to as to who can be the victim excepting a third. And it makes no sense that why it should not be, it should have been against the will of a person. Then it would have been a consistent section. But the fact that you have brought in third and said woman, it now creates a doubt about the other categories also. And that is what we say, that loopholes are created in the language itself to get acquittals. So So at one level, the fact that there's one, because usually we are talking about, this is an extension. If you're as a lawyer, one argument will be it is an extension or an example of 354. 354 is limited to women as a victim. So this is an omission in the law. And therefore, if it is a woman who has been, it is a man who is a victim, will say, no, 354, I did not intend to. That will be your defense argument. There are prosecution, you will say that no, the section is clear. If it says plain and simple language, you do not have to read words into it. And especially, actually, it was, I find no rationale to say that if the other three categories are gender neutral in terms of victims, why should the third be only gendered? It makes no sense to me at all. So these are the areas which, as a lawyer, you need to pick up for arguments to defend. What is the possibilities of interpretation within the language of the law? So whether thirdly is actually an aberration. So when it comes to women, I would certainly want to argue as a modern lawyer of 21st century that women will include the transgender also, who are declared to be, who are chosen to be women. I would certainly want the law to be talking about transgender as victims. But so far we don't have that. We need to find spaces within the existing law to provide protection to the other categories which are not included on the face of it. So if a child of 6 years is shown pornography and the child is not liking it, will this section be attracted?
354A won't be attracted out here, I guess so. It will come under 354 because it says whoever assaults or uses criminal force to any woman. Any woman here connotes to, I think, of any age, woman of any age.
So why will it not come in 354A1 subclause 3?
Because I think it's given against the will of a woman.
Yeah.
It doesn't talk about any age, woman of any age.
Yeah, it will come here. No? I was just wanting you to remember the definition. Okay. You've rightly done that. That woman is not only adult woman, it is female of any age. So that was my only point on this one. Good that you remember that. 354B, assault or use of criminal force to women with intent to disrobe. Have you seen the film Bandit Queen? It is about Phulan Devi. Phulan Devi, where she was paraded naked in front of 100 men. And there was a scene showing that in that film. And that was objected to. Case went to the Supreme Court, Bobby International. They said this is obscenity. Of course, at that point of time, the court said no obscenity. This is to say the extent of the atrocities on that woman. But look at this whole thing. There's something which was very, very abusive of the woman was seen by some people as being obscenity and not oppression. Is there a difference between obscenity and oppression? And for so many years, it has taken decades before this law has come, saying that disrobing is a serious offense. Punishment, minimum 3 years, maybe up to 7 years. And we do know any number of instances where women have been disrobed and paraded in public to shame them for sexual activities, for believing to be witches, all kinds of things. Voyeurism. Any man who watches or captures the image of a woman engaging in a private act in circumstances where she would usually have the expectation of not being observed. So when we had Smriti Irani saying that there was CCTV camera in her changing room, is this the offense attracted?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Either by the perpetrator or by any other person. So what is the difference between voyeurism here and assault? Sexual assault.
Ma'am, in assault, the accused is present, and in this voyeurism, we can never know.
Yeah, so the possibility of the physical attack is also there. In voyeurism, it is privately. Somebody is peeping through somebody. So this peeping Tom will be guilty of voyeurism under this legislation. We did that today. So, well, okay, well, peeping Tom be liable for this one when Lady Godiva is going naked in the city streets on a horseback.
No, no, ma'am.
Why not?
Ma'am, because she would not be in the expectation that there won't be any other person watching while she was on the horse. I mean, she
No,
had
but
that idea when she was protesting.
Ayush, the whole point of that thing is that it was not expected of any man to look at her. Any man. She would protest, but the
Ma'am,
cultural requirement was that she was not expecting anyone to look at her. This is, of course,
That
stretching it too much. It is stretching it too much, but certainly the possibility of that argument by the prosecution can be ruled out. So if a woman is taking bath on a pond, or not, the example I said, in my home, I was having the bath behind the cart, and somebody watches me. I'm not expecting them to look at me. So one is, certainly the private areas. But if it is a public space and there are, when you look at the ghats we have, Ganga pe ghat bane hue. There are women ghat and there are men ghat. So a woman is changing clothes at the ghat. Can men ogle at her? Ogle at her? Somebody is found doing that.
no,
Will
ma'am.
he be held liable? That's what cultural
Yes,
nuances
ma'am.
have to be. The cultural nuances have to build into this. So this is a exclusively women's ghat. Men are not supposed to be there. If a man decides to sneak into there, women are not expecting them to be looking at them. Voyeurism. For the purpose of this section, private act includes an act of watching carried out in a place which in circumstances would reasonably expected to provide privacy, and where the victim's genitals, posterior or breasts are exposed or covered only in underwear, or the victim is using a lavatory, or the victim is doing a sexual act that is not of a kind ordinarily done in public. So husband and wife having sex in their private place, somebody else watching, voyeurism. Definition 2, where the victim consents to the capture of the images or any act, but not to their dissemination to third persons, and where such image or act is disseminated, such dissemination shall be considered an offense under this section. Husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend filming their sexual act, that she has consented to, but not its display. So if you put it out there on the net, or you put it out there for any other's viewing, it is your offense. Now, for me, my further question would be that certainly this boyfriend or the girlfriend, whoever that party may be, because it says any man who watches, captures the image of a woman engaging in private act in circumstances where. So I would think that not only this person who is now putting it out there, but they're saying that such dissemination shall be considered an offense. So there are two parties now involved. One is this, let's assume is the boyfriend who has now put out the sexual act with the girlfriend, or the one who has been exploiting in the public domain. So whether he alone is the offender or anyone else who is viewing those videos are also offenders. What do you think?
Ma'am, both are the offenders in this case because, first of all, having sex and all that is not allowed in a public place. A public place is meant to behave like civil beings. It is a private affair to have sex with a partner in a home room, whatever, but in a private space. Secondly, the person who is viewing it is strictly under the domain of voyeurism. He's watching them having sex without being expected to be there, and he's like peeking over there. So he is liable for it.
So the purpose of the explanation is to clarify two things. One, that even if it has been, because in the main section 354C, we are talking about somebody filming the sexual act or the woman in the private place without her knowledge and consent. Now we are talking about section 2 of a circumstance where filming was done with her consent, but dissemination was not. So dissemination does not come into the main definition. Because when it says watches or captures, but capturing has been done with her consent, it will say that it is not only the watching, but also disseminating the content which were private. So certainly people who are watching the sexual act which was done in private, not made for the public viewing, they will certainly be within the definition of 354. Definition 2 is making even the person who is putting it out there for dissemination as the offender. So that is an additional category which has been included by this one. Now stalking.
Ma'am, I had a doubt.
Yes.
Ma'am, so let's say that there is a beach where where a woman was in her bikini. So that counts as underwear according to this section. And the beach was unisexual, and she would have expected that people would be there. Now someone captures a photo of the woman and say disseminates it. So would that come under voyeurism or not?
Are you supposed to click people unknown to you in whatever clothes they are, even if she was fully dressed?
No, ma'am. That point I understand, ma'am, but I just wanted to know strictly according to this section.
I would think yes. Why are you putting it out there? What is your business?
Ma'am, he's not supposed that he's not clicking, he's just watching. So then.
Are you supposed to be ogling at girls who are in their bikinis on the sea beach?
Ma'am, we can't really differentiate between accidental watching, like
accidental watching and ogling are the two different things. You know, looking at someone passing by is a different than your fixed gaze only. The difference, ना? क्लास में कोई स्टेयर करता कोई आपको देखता है, दोनों फर्क है ना?
Yes, like he pointed out earlier that it is a unisex beach in which men are not allowed at all.
No, are you supposed to be ogling at people at a unisex beach? आप अपना काम करो ना, उसको क्यों देख रहे हो? आप अपना काम करो जो करने आए हो. आप लड़कियां देखने गए हो तो ऑफेंस होगा ना? अगर लड़कियां देखने गए हो तो ऑफेंस होगा. That was the only reason for going to the beach. Stalking तो एक बारी में नहीं होता है. अगर voyeurism में आ सकता है. Stalking है any man, again a man, who follows a woman and contacts or attempts to contact such woman to foster personal interaction repeatedly, despite a clear indication of disinterest by such woman. तो एक दफा किसको approach किया, not an issue, but if you do it repeatedly, उन्होंने कहा नहीं मुझे कोई interest नहीं है. आप उसको रोज पूछते हो शाम को कॉफी पीने चलोगी, वो कहते नहीं मुझे नहीं जाना है. जैसे कि नहीं चलो और रोजाना पीछे लगे हो. Stalking monitors the use by a woman of the internet, email or any other form of electronic communication commits the offense of stalking, provided that such conduct shall not amount to stalking if the man who pursued it proves, so the burden is on the accused, it was pursued for the purpose of preventing or detecting a crime. तो अगर स्लोएथ है सरकारी जासूस for preventing or detecting a crime, and the man accused of stalking had been entrusted with the responsibility of prevention and detection of crime by the state. So सरकारी मुलाजिम होना चाहिए. और this even on a contract basis. So if a girl's father puts a man to follow a jasus on her daughter, or a husband puts a jasus on his wife, will he be protected? And the jasus is now following because उसका husband या father उसको payment कर रहा है.
The spy should be appointed by the government. That's what.
So जो personal jasus लगाते हैं, वो the jasus will be held for stalking. It was pursued under any law or to comply with any condition or requirement imposed by any person under any law. In the particular circumstances, such conduct was reasonable and justified. Can you think of any circumstance where pursuing, following a girl would be reasonable and justified. Suppose there was a girlfriend, you were good friends, you were in physical relationship for 4 years. Then one day something happened and she says, no more, off with me. You are still continuously ringing her up, going to her office, waiting for her to come out of the office, walk her home, and she's saying, no, do not contact me. Will it come in the exception 3? You want to restore the relationship.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
You will think it's reasonable and justified to pursue her.
Once you denied, it's not reasonable.
It's not reasonable. वो वाली film थी ना, 2 states. देखी थी? 2 states.
Yes, ma'am.
So at that point of time, he also went, ठीक है, वो नहीं phone करे तो नहीं कर रही. And something else intervene and they get back in touch with again. But if he or she was to continuously pursue each other, would have been stalking. Whoever commits the offense of stalking, punished on first conviction, term which may extend to 3 years, also fine, punished on a second or subsequent thing, which may extend to 5 years. So there are a lot more. And then, somewhere, one thing is this whole gender business in these sections. But the second one is that why should anyone be pursuing the other? There are millions of people in this world. If one person doesn't, reciprocate your feeling, move on. So it's not only a question of about women. Certainly women are pursued a lot more. And okay, where is this acid throwing? Where is that offense? Parveen, क्या section number है?
326A or B, I think.
किसी और दिन देखना पड़ेगा. We need to look at 3, 19 and 20 also.
Yeah, it's 326A.
326A.
This is also a new one, na?
Acid attack 326A and B.
So that's another one. The woman is not interested. She said no. This whole thing about men assuming that if they approach a woman, she must say yes. They must express their sexuality in a manner irrespective, in the way they like, irrespective of the woman's way. That's what is all being recognized in these sections. हमारे पास acid throwing का हमने offense नहीं रखा है क्या हमारे कोर्स में?
मैम कौन सा offense?
Yeah, this is acid throwing.
मैम नहीं, as such we are not teaching it specifically.
Hurt, reverse hurt हटा दिया.
हाँ जी. Earlier it used to be there, but अभी नहीं, we are not teaching it.
Yeah, so we'll very quickly in the next class, we very quickly cover these also, because this may be, because there would be a scenario where the difference between reverse hurt and attempt to murder. So this will come back again when we come to attempt to murder. I think वहाँ आ जाएगा.
I just want to know, ask one thing, ma'am. If we look at 354D, the proviso clause 1 and clause 2, what is the difference between 2 and 1?
बताओ.
Ma'am, 354D में stalking में ही, if you look at the second clause of exception, it was pursued under any law to comply with any condition or requirement imposed by any person under any law. So what could be an example? Does it include any person who has been released on probation and some kind of a check is being put on that person? Because so far the first category is concerned, it's covering,
that may be a possible example of the probation. Not in probation, no, but if they said, no, you will not leave your house without somebody watching you. It's very unlikely condition in probation.
This is the only thing I can think of, as an example.
And even if somebody has been, the other categories can be that somebody has been released on parole. And then when you go on parole, the policeman always, when it is a temporary, you know what you call that, when somebody is, there's a function in the house, or there is a death has happened, so the policeman carries you to wherever you go and all that. Maybe those kind of.
And
Ma'am,
even
I can
third
think.
condition, and even in a third clause also, I mean, we need to think about the circumstances that can be falling under this
No,
third clause.
because this is someone, one way of seeing this, that people think that if the girl hasn't said no, and she has not clearly said no, so her थोड़ा बहुत कहने से तो लड़के मानने को तैयार नहीं होते ना, that she's saying no. And certainly there has been a relationship earlier, so then they think it's reasonable to pursue her.
Ma'am, I have another example for Harleen ma'am's question. Like,
yes, sir.
This man can be, you know, a private detective, a private investigator, and maybe he was accused for something, but he's, you know, talented, and also he can be used by his ability can be used by the state.
But I don't think private detective can be included.
No, the private detective,
Can't be included.
this has to be by any person under any law.
A law.
Law कौन सा कहता है कि private detective बेटी पे लगा दो?
Azmi ma'am, one question related to that only. For example, a father spies her daughter who is under 18, who is under his legal guardianship. So can that be in the case of stalking or not?
I think it will be, ma'am, or it will be coming under third clause, reasonable and justified, unless and until he can prove, I mean, the circumstances justifying.
And the girl is kind of having sex, and that is unlawful. We want to prevent that. Then he might say unreasonable and justified to protect the girl.
And he might have received some threats with regard to safety of the daughter, so might be keeping a watch on daughter. So
no, that will come in the first one. Okay,
third
also, yeah. The girl will be abducted. You put somebody out there. Yeah, so there may be a scenario also. In the second one, then there can also be that a PSO has been given to you. PSO will come in the first one only. It's a PSO. But if you take a private PSO, in secondly, I'm thinking pursued under any law or to comply with any condition or requirement imposed by any person under any law. Probation is a good example.
It was just an example I could thought of. Students were asking me, so probation का ही ध्यान आया मुझे example देने का. उसमें होती
Like
है conditions.
Ma'am, in antivirus also now it's come with parental control. So it's for the parents to keep a spy on the children. So that is also a type of stalking, but it will not consider, I think.
Which one?
Like in nowadays we get antivirus also. It's with parental controls. So parents can control the data which their children are looking at the internet. So that is also a type of stalking.
Magar that will come on the exceptions of reasonable and justified. Parental control on antivirus is reasonable and justified. What examples are there?
Does each stalking is included in the stalking section?
Say that again.
Sorry, ma'am, it's included. Ma'am, I have one more question. Like, don't you think this 354C should be gender neutral law? Like, any women can also, like capture image and all these things can be done by a woman, any girl.
And तो है मगर करती नहीं है ना, तकलीफ ही है. अभी तक लड़कों का और लड़कों का अगर किया भी तो लड़के बड़े खुश हो जाते हैं. It is assumed that men will be happy if somebody catches them.
Ma'am, tapping
But if some girl does that,
assumptions है, sort of assumptions है. Assumptions है. It's not that never any woman will capture any man, but the question is that is this a social issue to the extent that there should be a law?
Okay, ma'am. And ma'am, here the word Satyam, let me please complete. Yeah. So, ma'am, here the word man is used. So, like, man should be major or he can also be minor.
Minor का तो सारा उसमें आ जाएगा ना पक्षों में. उधर तो men, women सब included है.
No, ma'am. The perpetrator is a man.
If the child is involved in pornography, पक्षों में offense है.
No, ma'am. He suppose that a child is capturing a child of 17 years and he is recording someone. So then.
हाँ, juvenile justice act लगेगा.
Okay.
Ma'am, like
तो सत्यम,
Ma'am,
let's first Satyam, then Devanshi, फिर Anup, and then Tushar.
Okay. Ma'am, suppose a husband wants a decree of divorce under Hindu Marriage Act, and for that he needs to prove that his wife has been indulging in adultery. So for that, can he employ a private detective? And
Would you say justifiable and reasonable?
Ma'am, I think it's a requirement imposed under any law because they have to prove or provide an evidence of adultery.
That's what I'm saying. The possibility of the defense to argue that it was justified and reasonable.
Ma'am,
both,
I think like both justified and reasonable, and secondly, the law imposes that they have to provide an evidence that the wife was adulterous.
No, but that does not mean that they have the right to employ the, that will not come in secondly. It may come in thirdly, but not in secondly.
It would be invading her privacy.
Yeah, that's true, but there's a proviso, no? So because he needs to prove it, he can say, I was justified in having the private detective to find out my wife, what is she doing, because I need to prove it in the court of law. So that may be brought under thirdly, but not secondly. But law does not say you can hire a detective.
Okay, ma'am, got it.
Ma'am?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I just didn't get one thing. Ma'am, the example in which you mentioned that a gay man was making advances on a man or like showing him pornography or like flirting with him, can that man take the help of 354?
Which man?
The man on whom the advances were made by a gay man.
Because it's whoever, no? So the offender can be whoever, but the victim has to be still woman, no? In the 354.
So मैम फिर वो कहाँ पे फिर हेल्प मतलब कहाँ पे वो कौन सा सेक्शन में ले सकता है
ट्रांसजेंडर विक्टिम?
यस
उसका है ही नहीं अभी, जो थोड़ा बहुत उसमें लगा है ट्रांसजेंडर एक्ट में, वो भी अभी इन्फोर्स नहीं हुआ है, इसमें तो कुछ भी नहीं है ना. As a victim, the only possibility of that person is under 354A.
Okay.
Because only apart from subsection the clause 3, all other are not saying who is the victim. So possibility of arguing that may be here.
Okay.
Ma'am.
And ma'am, the second question is, if a man appoints a spy for like to spy on a girl, तो spy पे तो वो section लग जाएगा stalking का या किसी का भी, but जो man है जिसने spy को appoint किया है, उस पे भी वही same section लगेगा.
Abatement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Now the turn was Piyush.
No, I didn't ask the question.
Ma'am, आपने मेरे को ये कर
Anup.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, पॉलिटिकल फिगर के केसेस में, फॉर एग्जांपल इन एक्टर्स के केसेस में, तो मैम लोग तो उनको अक्सर फॉलो करते हैं, उनका पिक्स लेते हैं, तो मैम ये भी एक तरीके से क्राइम होगा क्या, या उनके लिए थोड़ा एक्सेप्शन रहेगा? कुछ
एक्सेप्शन रहेगा ना, क्योंकि इसमें जब हम कह रहे हैं डिस्पाइट क्लियर इंडिकेशन ऑफ डिसइंटरेस्ट, तो जो पेपराजी है, जो उनको न्यूज़पेपर्स वाले फॉलो करते रहते हैं, मीडिया वाले, वो स्टॉकिंग है. पर जब फैन करते हैं तो वो भी तो खुश होते हैं कि हाँ हमारी फैन फॉलोइंग है.
मैम बट लोग मतलब पिक्चर वगैरह भी लेते हैं, फॉर एग्जांपल बीच वगैरह पे वैसे फोटो लेते हैं एक्ट्रेस का.
दो दफा मिलकर जो मेघना और वो क्या है प्रिंस, उनका हुआ ना, दैट प्राइवेट मोमेंट यू कैन नॉट टेक व्हेन दे आर नॉट एक्सपेक्टिंग. जब आपको फोटो ऑफ दे रहे हैं तो आप खींचिए, जब आपको कह रहे हैं हमारे अब हमें छोड़ दो, न्यू स्टिल परसिस्ट. तो पेपराजी का तो वही सारा इशू है ना, दे स्टॉक द सेलिब्रिटीज. पर वो सेलिब्रिटीज वाला सिनेरियो इसमें वही है, व्हिच इज अ मैन हु डज इट टू वुमेन स्टॉकिंग में. वो लिमिटेशन लगा दिया ना यहाँ पे. सो अगर अमिताभ बच्चन को स्टॉक कर रहे हो वो तो इसमें नहीं आएगा.
हम यहाँ पे तो मेल को भी किया जा रहा है स्टॉक फिर.
मैं कह रहा हूँ ना, अमिताभ बच्चन को अगर हम स्टॉकिंग करेंगे तो ऑफेंस नहीं आएगा इसमें 354D में.
तो फिर वो
वुमन को
लगेगा
नहीं लगेगा, वो अपना हैरेसमेंट, पब्लिक न्यूसेंस, बहुत दूसरे ऑफेंस लगाएंगे. ये ऑफेंस नहीं लगेगा.
Ma'am, but journalists do have special privileges in certain situations to go and click pictures. So will they not be exempted because of that?
किसका privilege है?
Ma'am, the reporters and journalists who are certified, they can go and click
But
pictures.
not, Amitabh Bachchan having a private moment with his wife. paparazzi का कोई right है क्या?
No, ma'am, not about the private moment, about the paparazzi in general.
No, paparazzi is not supposed to follow you all the time. You want an interview, ask him for an appointment. अगर वो है कि कोई offense कर रहा है छुप के तो paparazzi जा सकती है. But not for ordinary life. You can't breathe without the paparazzi taking your photo. Yomesh.
Ma'am, I was asking, is it applies for husband also, 34D?
Depends on what the circumstances we are talking about.
Recently, a movie series came, and there was some similar situation that husband was talking. So,
if the wife has separated, उसको बोला restraint order है उसका, वो नहीं जाएगा, उसको पीछे का वो फिर भी चलता है, वो कहाँ जा रही है, क्या कर रही है. Certainly.
They were not separated.
इसमें कोई लिखा थोड़ी है कि वाइफ को स्टॉप नहीं कर सकते. But what has required is clear indication of disinterest by the woman.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
So unless you can say reasonable or justified में ला सकता है, otherwise तो stalking तो है ही ना. As long as the woman says no, don't follow me.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, suppose that a man commits have some sexual act with a woman who is dead, then will he be liable under 370? Will his act come under 375?
Tell me whether a dead body is a woman or a man.
Ma'am, section 10, I think it talks about living being, man, living being.
तो आपको खुद ही मिल गया.
Okay, and same case goes with murder also.
हाँ, मर्डर में वो ना सब्जेक्टिव ऑब्जेक्टिव टेस्ट लगा दिए ना, उस आर्ग्यूमेंट पे करोगे आप लोग. इफ डेड बॉडी को आपने शूट कर दिया, आपने सोचा ये तो सो रहा है बंदा, पर उसको तो हार्ट फेल से पहले ही मर गया था. कैन यू किल अ डेड मैन? क्या कहते हो? Can you kill a dead man with the intention to kill?
No,
does an act and causes death. Requirement क्या है? Causes death. So has she caused his death?
No, ma'am.
तो ये offense नहीं आ सकता है ना?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, my question is regarding the sting operation and the sex scandals of either the politicians or something which came in a public. So that politician can sue the person who have done this recording or something.
आप क्या सोचते हो thirdly apply होगा इस बंदे को? डिफेंस में कह सकते हैं कि नहीं कह सकते?
Ma'am, if I see
exception no proviso 3 जो है.
Yes, ma'am.
लागू होगा कि नहीं होगा?
Yes, ma'am, हो सकता है.
हाँ, तो वो तो कहेगा स्टॉकिंग. अगर वो कैसे पॉलिटिशियन तो अगर वुमेन होगा तभी कह सकता है.
मैम, वो उसका फिर क्या ऑफेंस बनेगा डेड बॉडी के साथ हैविंग सेक्सुअल एक्ट इफ इट्स नॉट अ रेप?
वो कुछ और ऑफेंस होता है. जब इनका था ना कि जो बिठारी वाले केसेस हुए थे, उसको क्या बोलते हैं?
निठारी कांड मैम. वो
हाँ, निठारी कांड में
नेक्रोफिलिया मैम. नेक्रोफिलिया.
हाँ, नेक्रोफिलिया. वो ऑफेंस तो शायद नहीं है.
No, ma'am, it's not.
Not an offense.
So, ma'am, he will walk free then.
आप क्या सोचते हो? क्या ऑफेंस होना चाहिए उसके लिए?
कुछ तो होना चाहिए ना.
कुछ होता है म्यूटिलेटिंग ना, ऐसा कुछ ऐसे होता है म्यूटिलेटिंग द डेड बॉडीज, ऐसे करके कुछ ऑफेंसेस.
हाँ, ऑफेंस तो होगा. इट इज नॉट अंडर द 376 और 375.
हाँ, उसमें नहीं आएगा. उसमें नहीं आएगा.
मैम, पाकिस्तान में एक ऐसा सिमिलर केस था. वहाँ पे एक पर्सन मतलब डेड बॉडीज को कब्र से निकाल के ही वाज हैविंग सेक्स विद देम, तो ही वाज चार्ज्ड फॉर समथिंग एग्जैक्टली. मेरे को याद नहीं है, लेकिन
नहीं, तो वो डिफाइलिंग ऑफ नहीं, वो तो कब्रों को खोलने का अपना सेपरेट ऑफेंस है ना. कब्र नहीं खोल सकते ऐसे.
सेक्सुअल एक्ट कर रहा था, उसके लिए भी चार्ज किया गया था.
चलो ढूंढ के बताना कौन से में किया था.
ओके मैम.
Ma'am, I have a doubt regarding this section only. So in ma'am 354, it is saying whoever assaults. That means the offender is not defined. He could be anyone. But like in 354 A, B, C, it is written a man who. So for example, a woman does the same act with another woman. He captures this photo and disseminates it in public. So would she be liable for the voyeurism or other acts?
उसमें तो offender man है ना voyeurism में.
Ma'am, but see, the actual object of the act is like to protect the woman from voyeurism and other, and the act is done on the woman only, but the offender is a woman only.
वो वाला 354 में आएगा मेरे हिसाब से तो.
Okay, it would come in 354, not in 354C.
Doesn't seem like to me in the language of the law. Because naturally, prosecution to argue करेगा कि that no, the new circumstances they should be changed, but normally judges will not use that argument, will not accept, because judges interpret what is written. If the clear usage of man and woman is there, they will not go beyond. The judges अपनी interpretation ला सकते हैं within the language. जैसे उन्होंने अरुण कुमार में किया कि a man and a woman can do it, and women की interpretation ला दिया कि without Nalsa, if a person chooses to be a woman, identifies herself to be a woman, then that will be considered as woman. So they can make two and two together, but they cannot. And if there is no law, they can again, they've been still making laws. But if there is a law and the language is clear, then judges do not have much discretion there.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
So kindly please mark your attendance.
Ma'am, I have one question. Can section 377 be invoked in case of necrophilia?
Yes.
Why do you think it can be?
Unnatural offense.
Let's read 377. Whoever voluntary has carnal intercourse against the order of nature with any man, woman, whether necrophilia is having sex with man, woman.
No, it is a dead body, no.
Yeah, so it will not come.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
Ma'am, in state amendment to 354, Jammu Kashmir has added 354E sextortion. Oh, it's okay, ma'am. I'll take this question in the next class.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know who has come. They are just not stopping.
Thank you, ma'am.